I always thought the best man's job was simple: keep me calm, keep the ring safe, and make one speech that's funny without ruining anyone's career. Turns out, I was wrong. My best man kept a bigger secret than the ring and gave a speech without words, weeks before the wedding, that I didn't hear until it was too late. We'll call him Nate because that's his name. Nate and I met in 7th grade detention after we got caught turning the science lab skeleton into a DJ. He was the magnetic one, the guy who could make a substitute teacher forgive him by the end of homeroom. When I asked him to be my best man, he teared up and said, "There is no universe where that isn't me." It felt like the last piece in a puzzle falling into place. And then there's Hannah. We met at a friend's rooftop party where the music was too loud to talk, so she kept typing jokes on her phone and holding them up for me to read. I fell for those text bubbles before I fell for her, then fell for her anyway. Hannah is the kind of person who makes waiters tell secrets and old women give you life advice at bus stops. 2 years after that rooftop, I proposed with a ring my grandmother left me and a speech I practiced for a month. She said yes in that trembling way people do when they're holding their breath for a life to begin. Everyone was excited. My mom started building spreadsheets that needed their own spreadsheets. Hannah's dad tried to pretend he wasn't crying at brunch. And Nate? He went into full project manager mode. "I got you," he said, thumping my chest. "I will be the best man in the history of men. Or at least in the county." He meant it. He booked the venue for the rehearsal dinner, bullied the tailor into redoing a suit sleeve that looked like it was afraid of my bicep, and negotiated with a florist whose personality was thorns. He came by our apartment with coffee and lists, crossed out items with flair, and learned all the names of Hannah's bridesmaids so he could be charming without being creepy. When people asked how preparations were going, I'd shrug and point at him. "Nate is my wedding AI, I'd say. He knows everything." There were little moments after that, nothing big enough to look at by itself. New inside jokes between Hannah and Nate that I didn't know the origin of. A playlist they made together for the reception energy. A habit of him dropping by even when I wasn't home because he had vendor stuff to pick up. It made sense. He was helping. It's helpful to have someone who knows where the napkins go and what Hannah's allergy to fake eucalyptus looks like. The last time I saw Nate, it was late summer at a street fair that looked suspiciously like the one where I met Hannah. He was at a distance, hands in his pockets, watching a kid win a stuffed bear the size of an apology. He didn't see me. For a second I considered calling his name. Instead I watched him leave, a man whose shadow used to overlap mine, turning a corner into a block I didn't need to walk. What did I learn? That forever is a fragile word, and friendship is a verb, not a noun. That you should pay attention to who holds the lists and who holds the line. That the best man isn't the person who can kill a problem with charm, it's the person who would rather be wrong than betray your trust. And that love, the kind I want next, doesn't require secrets to survive. There's a box under my bed with the invitations we never mailed and the vows I wrote and never spoke. Sometimes I take them out to remind myself that I am a person who can promise well. Not to Hannah. Not to a date I could point to on a calendar. To myself. To the next version of my life that doesn't need a tuxedo to be real. If you're listening to this because you're standing where I stood, on the wrong side of a closed door, here's what I wish someone had told me: you can cancel the show. You can disappoint the crowd. You can save the part of you that has to wake up tomorrow. There will be people who think you overreacted, who gossip, who shrink your story until it fits inside their mouths. Let them. The ones who matter will show up with tacos and plants and bad jokes, and when you're ready, you'll laugh so hard the worst parts shake loose. One day, months after the non-wedding, I tried on the suit I never wore. It fit differently, maybe because grief is a tailor. I stood in front of the mirror and straightened the tie and realized I didn't see a groom or a jilted something. I saw a man who knows where the ring is and who it belongs to. The answer wasn't a finger. It was a promise. Never again the kind of silence that lets a secret live under my roof. Never again the kind of love that needs a locked door to breathe. And never again a best man who doesn't know what best means. Grief is boring in real time. It's paperwork and errands and changing your RSVP to life from yes to we'll see. It's my mother texting how's your heart, and me writing, functional. It's deleting the shared wedding album and feeling like a arsonist. It's waking up at 3 in the morning and wanting to call the one person who made you laugh during terrible nights, then remembering he was on the other end of the damage. But there are small mercies. The groomsman who came over every Tuesday with tacos and refused to let me talk about anything serious after 8 p.m. My aunt who sent me a plant with a note that said, "This absolutely does not symbolize anything." The neighbor's dog that decided my stoop was part of its route and would insist on being petted like it was my job. And time, rude, relentless, miraculous time, kept happening. It didn't heal me, but it made healing possible. Months passed. I learned new routes that didn't take me past the venue. I changed my coffee shop because the barista had started asking wedding questions like a cliffhanger. I slept through the night often enough to believe sleep wasn't an enemy. One afternoon in spring, I saw Hannah across the street carrying a paper bag from the farmer's market. She looked like a person who was having a life, not a villain. I kept walking, not because I hate her, but because I don't need to hear the director's commentary on a movie I already watched. You want to know if I forgave them? The answer isn't punchy. Forgiveness for me is not a door, it's a dimmer switch. I turn it a little when I can. Some days it goes brighter, some days I bump it with my elbow and the room goes dark again. I don't wake up wishing them harm. I don't wake up wishing them well. I wake up, which is enough. People also ask if I regret not going through with it anyway, if I considered working it out and marrying Hannah because love is complicated and timing is cruel. Here's what I know. Marriage isn't a trapdoor out of your problems. It's a magnifying glass. Whatever felt wrong before the vows would have been a siren after them. If the best man and the bride were already a secret before the wedding, the ceremony would have turned it into a schedule. I chose to grieve now instead of every day for the next 5 years. Grief is boring in real time. It's paperwork and errands and changing your RSVP to life from yes to we'll see. It's my mother texting how's your heart, and me writing, functional. It's deleting the shared wedding album and feeling like a arsonist. It's waking up at 3 in the morning and wanting to call the one person who made you laugh during terrible nights, then remembering he was on the other end of the damage. But there are small mercies. The groomsman who came over every Tuesday with tacos and refused to let me talk about anything serious after 8 p.m. My aunt who sent me a plant with a note that said, "This absolutely does not symbolize anything." The neighbor's dog that decided my stoop was part of its route and would insist on being petted like it was my job. And time, rude, relentless, miraculous time, kept happening. It didn't heal me, but it made healing possible. Months passed. I learned new routes that didn't take me past the venue. I changed my coffee shop because the barista had started asking wedding questions like a cliffhanger. I slept through the night often enough to believe sleep wasn't an enemy. One afternoon in spring, I saw Hannah across the street carrying a paper bag from the farmer's market. She looked like a person who was having a life, not a villain. I kept walking, not because I hate her, but because I don't need to hear the director's commentary on a movie I already watched. You want to know if I forgave them? The answer isn't punchy. Forgiveness for me is not a door, it's a dimmer switch. I turn it a little when I can. Some days it goes brighter, some days I bump it with my elbow and the room goes dark again. I don't wake up wishing them harm. I don't wake up wishing them well. I wake up, which is enough. People also ask if I regret not going through with it anyway, if I considered working it out and marrying Hannah because love is complicated and timing is cruel. Here's what I know. Marriage isn't a trapdoor out of your problems. It's a magnifying glass. Whatever felt wrong before the vows would have been a siren after them. If the best man and the bride were already a secret before the wedding, the ceremony would have turned it into a schedule. I chose to grieve now instead of every day for the next 5 years. In the morning, Hannah called. She didn't make me do the theater. I can't, she said. I want to be the kind of person who can, but I can't. I said, I know. I knew long before the office door. I knew in the way her laugh leaned away from me, in the way Nate's voice wrapped around her name. I cancelled the venue, the caterer, the florist, the DJ, the shuttle, the hair and makeup. I made one post that said, "The wedding is not happening. We appreciate your privacy," which is a sentence that never gets the privacy it asks for. Then I put my phone in a drawer like it was radioactive. People reacted the way people do when you hand them a live wire. Some went quiet and sent hearts. Some demanded details. Some told me I was brave, like I had run into a burning building instead of leaving one. A distant cousin sent me a link to a podcast about heartbreak as if my pain needed a playlist. My grandmother called and said, "I love you," which solved more problems than it had any right to. Nate showed up 3 days later. I let him come up because I wanted him to see the absence. The unopened gifts. The clean suit hanging like a ghost. He stood in my living room and tried to look me in the eye. "I'll never forgive myself," he said. "That's not a plan," I said. "That's a mood." He nodded, wiped his face with the heel of his hand like a boy, and said the thing I'd been waiting for: "I'm out of your life. I won't text. I won't show up. If you want me back someday, I'll be waiting outside whatever circle you draw." The thing about Nate is he keeps his promises when he knows he's not allowed to break them. He disappeared. We shared a city like two people share a sky, without comparing stars. Hannah's mother returned my grandmother's ring. She placed it in my mom's hand with the kind of care usually reserved for antiques and apologies. My mom gave it to me, and I drove around with it in my glove box for 2 weeks because I didn't know which drawer could hold that much weight. One night I went to the river, stood on the pedestrian bridge, and held the ring in my fist for so long my palm was a map. I didn't throw it. I'm not a movie. I put it back and drove home. That was the line that stole the floor. Not the cheating. Not the logistics. Those I could file under human stupidity in time of stress. "I'm in love with her" is a thesis. It comes with footnotes. It rewrites summers and detentions and a 7th grade skeleton. Hannah cried harder. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said, the universal eulogy sentence. "You're both very kind," I said. "Tell me how that helps me get married tomorrow." Silence. The hallway hummed. Somewhere downstairs, the sound guy pressed play on the wrong song. I put my hands on the back of the chair, because if they were loose I worried they'd do something I couldn't forgive. "You two are going to leave," I said. "Now." "Nate, you'll text the groomsmen that the rehearsal is postponed because the venue had an issue." "You're good at lying when it makes things easier, so lie for me now." "Hannah, you're going to go to your parents' house and tell your mother you're sick. Tomorrow morning you're going to call me and say the thing we both know. I will cancel. I will eat the deposits. I will call my grandma and break her heart. And then I will not see you for a long time." Hannah made a sound like a word without letters. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I wanted to. Instead I said, "I don't have room for that right now. I'm carrying enough." Nate stepped forward like he might touch my shoulder, because he has always thought of my body as real estate for his comfort. I shifted back, and he caught the message. He nodded. "I'll tell them," he said. "I'll tell everyone it was me." "You'll tell them whatever you want," I said. "I'm not your PR." They left. I stood in the office with the moment like it was a person I didn't invite. After a while the sound guy came up to ask if I wanted the microphone on the sweetheart table moved 6 inches to the left. I said sure. He said, "You all right, man?" I said, "No, but thanks for asking." At home, my mother's spreadsheet looked like a city from above, blocks, grids, the illusion of control. I stared at it until the numbers tasted like pennies, then called her. She answered with her event planner voice and I broke the news with my son voice. She said nothing for 20 seconds and then said, "Okay. We can do hard things." My dad asked if he should come over and I said yes and then no and then yes again. He brought pizza like a firefighter. We ate it at the counter and nobody mentioned the wedding once. The venue looked like a place you say yes to. String lights. Brick. A bar that made you feel wealthy even if you were renting your shoes. I walked in carrying the box and heard Nate's voice echoing from the hallway that led to the upstairs office. He was laughing the way he laughs when he's winning. Then I heard Hannah, soft, the way she talks when she's telling the truth she doesn't want heard. Tomorrow, she said. We have to stop. We said we would. I put the box on a chair that did not deserve the responsibility of the moment and moved without making a sound. The office door was mostly closed, but the old wood frame left a gap like a bad habit. Nate was facing her, hand on the edge of the desk, not touching her but in the kind of proximity that makes touching a foregone conclusion. Hannah's cheeks were wet. Her phone lay between them like evidence that wanted to testify. We already said we would, Nate replied, voice low. And we didn't. Because we can't. You can, she said. You're not the one. Standing under an arch tomorrow, he finished for her, gentle and brutal. No. I'm not. I'm the idiot who's going to stand next to him and hand over the ring like it's not also the grenade I dropped. If I'd been in a movie, I would have kicked the door open, delivered a monologue, thrown a chair. In real life, I knocked. Both of them jumped like they'd been shot. Nate pivoted, guilt traveling across his face like weather. Hannah clapped a hand over her mouth, not to hold in a scream, but like she was trying to push words back into herself before they did damage. I opened the door and walked in and closed it behind me. Hi, I said, because apparently my brain is bilingual in sarcasm and shock. Hannah started, it's not, and swallowed it. I looked at Nate. He looked at me. The room smelled like dust and perfume and electricity. How long? I asked, because there are only two timelines in this situation, before and after the answer to that. Hannah stared at the desk. A month, she said. Maybe more. I'm sorry. I am so. Don't apologize to me like it sprouted out of the ground, I said, too calmly. Tell me who decided first. I did, Nate said, stepping toward a bullet he finally recognized. She tried to push me away. I didn't let her. I'm the one who crossed it. I'm the one who kept crossing. I laughed once, no humor. That makes it better, how? It doesn't, he said. His throat worked. I'm in love with her. The first odd thing happened the day of Hannah's dress fitting. I couldn't go, obviously. Nate drove her because her sister was out of town, and he swore me to don't ask for photos secrecy. They left at noon. At 6, I hadn't heard from either of them. At 7, Hannah texted, sorry, long day, alterations were a mess, Nate saved the day, and a heart emoji. When she got home she smelled like champagne and relief, and Nate posted an Instagram story of a cupcake box with the caption, bridal emergencies require frosting. I tapped a heart and moved on. The bachelor party was the second odd thing. I didn't want anything wild. I asked for a cabin, a grill, a lake, and a night where we lied to each other about how well we could still throw a football. Nate rented exactly that. The first night was perfect. The second night felt like a movie where the soundtrack makes you nervous for no reason. Nate disappeared around midnight. When I found him on the porch, he was staring at my phone on the railing. Do you ever get scared? He asked, weirdly serious. Like, this is all the right thing, but the right thing is big. Yeah, I said. That's why you're here. So I can be scared and still show up. He nodded and squeezed my shoulder. It would be an innocent moment if it didn't echo later like a hallway. 2 weeks before the wedding, Hannah dropped her phone face down on the coffee table when I walked in. She never did that. Not with me. She smiled too quickly and asked about the tux. I said it fit. She said great. Her laugh was a beat off, like a song played on slow Wi-Fi. That night she rolled away from me in bed and pretended to be asleep before she was. I lay there listening to the air conditioning worry. The next day, Nate texted that the band had a question about our first dance. They need the track, he wrote. Send it to me or Hannah. I sent it to them both. Hannah typed back a heart. Nate replied, "On it, champ." He hadn't called me champ since high school. I stared at the word and felt stupid for staring. Rehearsal week is a blur of tiny crisis. The caterer's oven broke. Hannah's aunt decided she had opinions on the table layout. My mom's spreadsheet went corrupt, which is to say she cried, and I started lighting candles. Through it all, Nate stayed superhuman. He lifted things. He charmed people. He knew where the missing boutonniere pins were. If my panic was an ocean, he was the guy building a dock while whistling. The night before the rehearsal dinner, Hannah was at her parents' place, and I needed to drop off a box of favors at the venue. Nate called to say he was there fighting with the sound guy and could let me in. Perfect.